I'm going to start this video by pointing out what I thought about Apple and what we think about Apple before the M1 chips. And then I'm going to take a look at these M1 chips and see my impressions of Apple before these M1 chips. Now, Apple products are always known to be hyped and overly expensive. I always felt that Macs didn't justify their cost, especially compared to other Windows devices. Taking into account that you can get the same CPU, GPU, RAM from a Windows device at a more affordable price. Sounds about right. But with the new M1 chips, things have shifted dramatically, and Apple products seem to have the lead thanks to the new M1 chip architecture. So as a Windows user, someone who has not bought or used any Mac device as my main work machine. So today, I've got the M1 Mac Mini sitting on my table. So let's see if it lives up to my expectations. Now, before I continue this video with the M1 chips and their performance, I do want to point out one thing about these Macs. These Macs are very well built. Now, one thing I cannot complain about Apple are their build quality. Getting the Mac Mini out of the box, I was greeted with this beautiful cold metal box that visually looks quite impressive compared to the usual plastic build we get from other Windows-based laptops or computers. The Mac Mini, by no doubt, is a very well built device. Typical of Apple, I guess. It even looks quite stylish on my desk, giving this nice minimalistic look we all want. Well, second thing I noticed with my new M1 Mac Mini, well, I say I noticed, because I did notice some impressive stuff these M1 chips can do. Now, I do want to mention that I got the 8GB version with only 250GB SSD, especially for me as a Windows user and my first Apple product. Getting the most affordable Mac is probably the best thing to do, especially for someone who is gonna try the new Apple ecosystem. Before I do anything stupid. Starting with normal daily stuff, these Macs handle things like butter. Really, really great. Now, as a Windows user, I am mentally and physically prepared for these fans to kick in as strong as they can right after I open my first Chrome tab. Sometimes I feel like I'm in an airplane. Holy moly. With these Macs, things were dead quiet while doing normal daily stuff with dozens of web tabs open with some apps running in the background while I watch 4K YouTube videos. The Mac is crazy fast on normal daily stuff. Now you might ask, but Harag, or Simon, any decent computer can do normal daily stuff, right? Yes, you're right, but not this fast. Just to give you an idea, I did a benchmark test for web browsing, speedometer to be specific, and the results were off the charts, 270. That leaves my main Windows computer, supposedly with more power and a dedicated GPU, at 64, nearly 5 times less. On top of that, the macOS felt surprisingly fast and smooth, with nice animations and transitions, as someone who has never used macOS before. Opening up the apps, they are very quick. So much so that I couldn't even get my head around at first. I thought the app was already open. Nearly all heavy-duty apps, but well-optimized apps, I use open up in less than 2 or 3 seconds. Wow. Now, not all applications open up that fast. Not all applications are optimized, and some have to use Rosetta too to get things going. Additionally, another thing I noticed about macOS is it extremely well optimized. It does feel generally a lot well built and handled compared to Windows operating system. As what people say, Apple products just work. And they mostly do. I say mostly because I did have some issues with the macOS. So if you want to find out all my experience with the macOS and the M1 chips, please hit the subscribe button, because soon I'll be doing a full review, taking into account everything that I saw and experienced with the M1 Mac Mini. Now, kicking up a notch, you're a pro user and you want to know if I used any softwares like photo editing, web editing, video editing, etc, etc. And I did. I used softwares like Affinity, Capture One, Final Cut Pro, Apple Motion, and a lot more. Starting with photo editing and general design-based softwares, things just worked, and worked very nicely. I was able to open up various softwares at once with different types of projects inside each and every software without a problem. I did notice the device used a lot of swap memory from the SSD, at one point surpassing 5 gigs. But things were still fast enough with no lag whatsoever. I assume these were RAM-related limitations, although the Mac Mini handled things overall better than my 16GB Windows device, while using a bit more of swap memory for somehow. Now some of the credit goes to the optimization that I mentioned with the macOS. macOS is really well made, and I believe that these apps working this well have to do with optimizations. Talking about video editing, things were no different. I was able to edit 4K 60p 10-bit files H.265 on Final Cut Pro X without a problem. No proxy, no optimizations, and no pre-rendering. Even with LUTs, basic transitions, and various 4K clips on top of each other, things worked surprisingly well with nearly no lag whatsoever. And the best part, that the fans haven't kicked in yet before doing all that heavy work. Just couldn't even imagine how these Macs were able to do this much without overheating. When I touched the Mac Mini after editing the videos, it was still dead cold. Maybe one of the reasons is that because it's practically empty inside. But also, these M1 chips are very, very efficient. Maybe the fans were working, but I just couldn't hear anything. I do want to point out that I've been using my Mac Mini, M1 Mac Mini, for 2 weeks. So take my impressions lightly. If you want to check out the full review, please hit the subscribe button. Speaking of lightly, these Macs sip through power. Compared to my Windows machine, according to what I saw online, it consumes 5 times less energy than what my Windows computer does, while being faster and more responsive than my laptop that has more RAM and a dedicated NVIDIA GPU. The M1 Mac Mini has its limitations, but if you are a Windows user and just curious if these M1 Macs were that good, then I come and say you that they are. These Macs are absolutely incredible. Now, a desktop PC with dedicated GPU, an amazing CPU, and water cooling stuff going on will definitely beat the M1 Mac Mini. It's not meant to be compared to high-end desktop machines, but it's quite impressive, doing so much with nearly no power usage. So are these M1 chips revolutionary? Well, yes. Yes, they are. Why, you might ask? Well, because the M1 baseline chips, I repeat, baseline chips, can do nearly all, if not all stuff 95% of people will need. So that means that the M1 chips literally lowered the threshold for most people who consider themselves as a pro user. Now, I might be wrong. Maybe on the long run, these Macs might have some issues. That's why I'll be doing a full review of my M1 Mac Mini while I keep on using it as my main working device. So please, consider hitting the subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the like button if you like the video. And hit the dislike button if you dislike the video. Oh, wait, Windows user. Don't hit the dislike button before you use the M1 chips. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.